Georgetown Public Hospital is the national referral hospital for the country of Guyana. People come from all parts of Guyana to access health care here. Based on our population and the income earned by the population, many of them cannot go into private hospitals. Government has made a decision that the public hospitals will provide free health care.
Having made that commitment, one could have the best of intentions, but if one is unable to finance those intentions in terms of tangible actions and investments, nothing will be achieved. Prior to the restructuring of our debt, we simply didn't have the fiscal space to make the investments in the social sector that were required.
Countries have been borrowing for as long as countries have existed. In the case of most of the developing countries in this world, the current borrowing really began in the 1970s, a time when commodity prices were high and were expected to remain high for a very long time. Unfortunately, commodity prices didn't stay high. World interest rates increased in the 80s, and that made it impossible for these countries to service their debts.
During the 1970s and the 1980s, the whole of Guyana's economy was brought under state control. At the same time, the country was grappling with the oil price crisis of the 70s. The country accessed lending from wherever it was available at the time. By the time we arrived at the late 80s, we had accumulated $2.1 billion of external debt, which made it virtually impossible for basic investment in social services because almost all of our revenue at the time was going to service debt.
We had no recourse but to approach our Paris Club creditors to seek relief. That's how it started, way back in 1988.
HIPC was the first attempt to also bring multilateral claims into debt relief processes. The Worldbank and the IMF and the other multilateral lenders had insisted that their claims on indebted countries would actually not only be preferred, but had a kind of exempt creditor status. And this turned out to be unsustainable, and HIPC 1 was set up in 1996.
Debt relief has basically freed up the budget resources for governments, and in that regard has given some space for the government to plan its expenditures better.
As a result of debt relief, we've been able to rapidly scale up our social spending. Today we spend in excess of 20% of GDP on health, education, housing, water and sanitation, and targeted poverty programs. The direct effect is a considerably more modern and more efficient education and healthcare system.
Through debt relief, more money has been available. Every year we are seeing an increase in our budget allotment. We are now building a new inpatient facility. Step by step, you'll see that great improvement has been made.
You have to bear in mind that most of the people who frequent this facility are people who cannot afford these services elsewhere. We are, without doubt, improving in the quality of services we provide at Georgetown Hospital.
Uganda is one of the few countries that have been endowed by nature. The soils are fertile, rain is abundant, and we have really a big advantage over other countries in producing agriculture.
The only challenge now we still have is being able to turn that nature-given advantage into a real economic advantage by investing in the agriculture sector. If we invest in the road network, it will help ease the flow of goods from the farms to the marketplaces and then for export.
In the 70s and early 80s, Ugandan economy entered into chaos. The economy declined, exports declined, budget declined.
We saw the escalation or the growth of this debt. It reached a point where the country could not sustainably handle its debt obligations.
In the late 90s, the typical HIPC country on average had to use 20% of its export revenues to pay for foreign debt per year. Nowadays, because of debt relief, on average it's around 5 percentage points of the export revenues.
If there had not been debt reliefs, today our debt service would be over $200 million. But because of the impact of debt reliefs, we are servicing about $90 million.
One of the most direct benefits of debt relief has been upgrading roads to all-weather standards, supporting roads that are integrating the domestic economy to the rest of the regional economies, as well as rural feeder roads.
With improved road network, the farmer would think about bringing their produce direct to the market to get more money. With this road, maybe one can rent a simple small truck and ferry the goods himself to the city. So that would generate more income and definitely improve the welfare of the people.
As the roads improve, definitely more produce will move from the production areas to the markets, in which case that will be the engine for development.
Together with other policies, of course, which government had put in place. The Ghanaian economy is one of the fastest economies which have grown over the 90s and today. And the poverty has been reduced from 56% of people below the poverty line, 31%. So it has been a great impact on the Ghanaian economy.
Debt relief is not a guarantee of debt sustainability.
We are firmly committed to ensuring that we protect, that we guard very jealously this sustainability that we've achieved.
So everyone has understood the importance of debt management going forward and the measures that have to be taken to avoid problems with your current account deficit.
It is very important to look at debt relief, debt sustainability, and debt management as a continuum.